Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Teleglitch Die More Edition. And in episode 5, we're going to be having our first boss encounter. Now, here's a trick to this level that I usually use when I'm playing through this game. You see these two doors? Yeah, those are the teleporters. So, what I usually do is I leave any loot that I don't actually need right there at the entrance. That way, as I find more loot, I can always just come back here and just drop it off, and I can assemble a little loot pile and then organise what loot I want to take with me. Now, about the taser, all energy weapons in this game ignore armour altogether. Like, armour just doesn't exist relative to them. Now, the patrol went down that way, so here they come again. Yeah, the patrol will not engage you unless you enter their line of sight. Turns Teleglitch into a bit of a stealth game. I'm going to follow them, however. But energy weapons typically don't have high damage. But they do have a very good amount of damage per second. Here come the idiots. And yet, red guards, they have more health than their standard guard counterparts, and they generally have more advanced equipment, though interestingly, guards never get drum magazine weapons, and or stealth, because why not? Teleglitch has turned from a roguelike into a stealth game. Actually, there are roguelikes which exist, which are stealth games, but doing a Let's Play of Teleglitch, which is inherently not a stealth game, and I do not want to enter this room right now. I'm trying to search for a specific secret before I come anywhere near that specific door, because that's the door behind which we will encounter our first boss fight. And I see how this level's decided to generate itself. Let's see if we can encounter that patrol now that we're ready to just... Speaking of the patrol, here they are. Yeah, my other advice for this level, try and conserve on how much heavy rifle ammo you end up using. Patrols are out in full force, but yeah, there are a total of 3 patrols consisting of 2 red guards. I don't think I've read this lore, so I'm going to read it now. Yep. So we have steroids, potentially illegal operations going on, and all sorts of shady business. It's exactly what you expect from an honest military company, right? Honesty? I'm not doing a very good job on conserving on the heavy rifle, am I? Hey! On the flip side, you can to a degree trick the guards into firing on other units of theirs. You can cause them to spin around frantically. That did not go very well. Could have gone a lot worse. I could have potentially died, and that would be the end of it would be the end of this run, but not necessarily the playthrough. I am going to be making myself my first suit of armor, but not right away, for several reasons. First off, I want to try and conserve as much as possible for the upcoming boss encounter, because armor helps, even if they have high armor penetration weapons. Something greater than being alive. That's terrifying in a philosophical sense, because, well, robots, they don't ask for any sort of pay, do they? On the flip side, it is a bit more legal than, say, sweatshop labour, but how much more legal can we say? We're not really in a position to really say anything, are we? Wonderful, Type Heavy units. And yes, we will be encountering Type Heavy units in this level, actually. That's the boss encounter. They pack medium armor, so you're going to want weapons with high armor penetration, namely the heavy rifle. And even so, because of the high amount of health and the armor, it's going to take quite a few shots with the heavy rifle in order to down them. Fortunately, the secret I was looking for we haven't actually been able to find, so the boss fight is going to be noticeably harder without the secret, but here's a spoiler alert on the secret that I was looking for. 1. Stimulant. Now, stimulants are special because you can craft them at any point in the game as long as you have a Medikit 25 and RDX 250, however, that's kind of a waste of 25 health points in an explosive, which you wouldn't have to use. Well, one helps you to kill things, the other helps you to survive. And the stimulant only gives you plus 50% movement speed and a really annoying screen effect for a minute. So it's just as temporary as both items put together. Here we are. Silly me, I forgot to make armor. Right. There we go. Didn't go anywhere near as smoothly as it could have gone, but then it didn't. But then, on the flip side, I didn't die, so that's a bonus. And speaking of the secret, here it is! Yeah, stimulants do not recover any health either, so the Medikit 25 that you could have used for recovering health, well, it's just simply gone when you make a stimulant. And now, this door here, if I were to say die and have my teleport activated in a boss room, you don't go back to the start, you instead get teleported right into this room here. So, yeah. So another thing, traps only activate if you have line of sight to if the pipe has line of sight to you. So keep that in mind as you're navigating about. I am going to be making the double shotgun because, why not? I might as well. And the thing you can do with a taser, make sure you unload the taser before you do any crafting with any weapon. And the taser itself is not too useful, but the upgraded damage to your knife is very useful. Now, just swinging your knife you won't get anything, and I'm not going to demonstrate it on this guy because why would I? He's a guard, he has a lot of health, and he gives a weapon to boot. Yeah, that zap. Infinitely more useful as a zappy zappy. yeah, here in the middle of an open corridor with 4 paths they could come at you from. Some very smart people we have. Oh, isn't that just lovely? I have to wade into a trap in order to get a plate. For armor. Yeah, the assault rifle is not the most accurate weapon, especially at long range, because its accuracy just drops off at long range. It's not as useful as other weapons. Die due to stress. Ah. Being real clear about things, game. Now... this is a problem. I could just run in there and try to grab the plate and then drop the RDX 500, but there's going to be a lot of zombies that just pour out of it, and looking at my current ammo situation, best bet is actually using the AGL1, because these zombies, they're not that dangerous to begin with. And that plus I can just zap the ones that are still alive to death with the shock blade in the first place. So now we can acquire our delicious plate. Now, I'll explain the explosives we can make, briefly. We can make ourselves a cannon gun, which I've already demonstrated. Panzerfaust is this basically a disposable rocket launcher, but then you can also get the armor penetration version. The armor penetration version does not... well, it doesn't explode like the normal Panzerfaust, but it ignores 100% of armor instead. Especially on a direct hit, it can one-shot any wall walkers, like we encountered in the boss fight. Now, unfortunately, we are starting to exit the mid-game at the same time that we kind of just arrived. But the mid-game is not a very pleasant part of the game to begin with. But yeah, other monsters do not trigger off zombie traps, just you, the player. Now, one thing that you could technically end up saying every single time you technically kill an enemy with a shock blade is, you could just go all Rambo and say, cease and desist. Because you're the new sheriff in town, and if you do it while holding a revolver, it does nothing. It does nothing other than look cool. Now, I'm demonstrating here that if you down an enemy but not kill it, you can still detect that they're alive with the EM detector, as though as if they hadn't been triggered. Yeah, 4 adhesive grenades on separate timings in order to kill a large mutant. And this one's just stuck behind a pipe. You can shoot through the pipe as well, but mobs, they just simply can't walk through it for some reason. Neither can you for that matter. There we go. Canned meat. Take that. Consume it. Create a plate. Now, I do realise I could have made more cannon rounds instead, but armor is only going to become more important, and I'm pretty sure I've got plenty of cannon rounds at the moment, as well. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Means goodbye to the garden for that scientist. It's a shame because he was really liking that garden as well. We have a secret here. And it contains another taser and some batteries. As I said, the taser is essentially junk, but any tasers you do pick up, you might as well unload them immediately. Only now do we get the teleporters. I was hoping to instead get the storage cabinets marked on the map, but that just simply didn't happen. You hear that sound? I smell a new enemy. And it is one of the most annoying enemies in the game. Say hello to the swarm bots. On the flip side, they die pretty easily to your knife, but they are the second kind of trap that can come from pipes, and they don't drop anything at all. Engaging them is a waste of time. And potentially health as well. Here we have a bit of lore, and we can also lock one of the security gates. But yeah, basically discussing the idea that you need to start using some of your more valuable weapons that can actually penetrate armor more easily. That bit of lore. You can get that bit of lore fairly early on if you're lucky, and you can get a hint that you'll need to switch out your firepower if you look very carefully into the room of the boss encounter. But we've already discussed that. Now, no nasties will happen as a result of you opening the security gates, but you still need to be careful of traps. Like, the main heavy testing bay's biggest threat isn't the war walkers, it's all the traps you could accidentally trigger as a result of fighting in that room. Now, that's pretty much it for this level. We've done everything we can. There's only really one thing to do left in this level, and that's to navigate all the way back to teleporter room and figure out what loot we want to carry with us. Now, this comes a part where we have to make some tough choices, because, and this is the feature I'm going to be talking about this episode, we're going to be talking about the crafting list the game gives you as you play, and it's the entire list. That's a lot of items you could potentially use. Don't ask me what this is supposed to be, because I haven't found out. Yeah, you can't even access it, and I've checked all of these items in the list. I'm not going to check them right now, because that'll make the episode too long. But, essentially, it comes down to a case of, in order to make the minigun... Here it is. You need 4 MG3200s and a single motor. And it is one of the most powerful weapons you can get very early on that's a real game ender, in my experience. But the problem is that you have to carry 4 MG3200s around with you. And they take up an inventory slot each, because they each hold separate amounts of ammo, so I need to do a lot of reorganization. I could use the stimulant now to show off what the stimulant does, but there's no point to doing that. Actually, I do know what I can do. So I can ditch the nail box because I'm never going to be using it. Then pick up these. But then there also comes another problem because I have to look around the 9mm as well. That's a problem. I can't exactly afford to make... Actually, I can afford to make an RDX 500 and then pick up the spare 9mm. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Now, the choices, advanced compatibility testing, or we can instead go to damage statistic department. Here's a small spoiler alert. Damage statistics? Less loot there, but less danger there also. Advanced combatants testing, more loot, but it's more dangerous. However, in both levels you are going to encounter another boss fight. And honestly, you want as much loot as possible for this boss fight, is the only thing I'll say about it, because the next two boss fights, and then the final boss, they all have the equivalent of heavy armor. And I've said enough about that in this episode, so we're just going to go to advanced combatant testing, because I want loot, and because loot helps. So... And that is the end of episode 5. Join me in episode 6, in which we get one of the game's... Well, actually, we get the only in-game jump scare. See you then.